4th down, the final play.
Here we are.
Unless they can stick it in the end zone. Dorsey under pressure, throws it. Incomplete. The Buckeyes win. Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got an opening. Elliott off to the races. Can they catch him?
Feature the two backs as receivers, and now a downfield shot on first down for the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State strikes first. Making adjustments again, and there is Smith running free, breaks a tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly from 45 yards. Pressure comes. Shaw, knocked it out, and picks it up. Jack Shaw, coming down the sidelines. Ohio State scoop and score and dagger from 82 yards.
Here they come.
Heavy pressure, Howard delivers downfield, and Smith, he's got it! Jeremiah Smith, the 2025 College Football National Champion, Coach Ryan Day, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Welcome in, Buckeye Backers. We are bringing it to you live from Seattle, Washington, to the cornfields of Enid, Ohio. We are the pulse of Buckeye fans across the nation, with Seattle Matt and Buckeye Steve. Seattle Matt, what is up, man? Another win for the Buckeyes. That makes us 6-0 on the season. We've traveled to 2 stadiums, 3-0 in the Big Ten. The Buckeyes are looking good. Perfect on the record. Perfect record. All right. So, is there anything in particular that Seattle Matt would like to go over to start the show? I know where you're going. I know you want to talk about this defense. And why not? Why wouldn't you want to talk about this defense? Holy lights out. You know, they had what you could say maybe is the worst performance of the season, giving up 2 touchdowns. And they're still averaging less than 7 points a game. And they're still first in scoring defense. That's insane. That's elite. Tell me what you think about it.
First off, I'm just proud of you for finally starting out a show talking about the defense without me having to interject on it. So glad you're up to speed here in October. Yeah,
I didn't want to. I just knew where we were going. I knew where you were going to lead me.
We have to. You have to lead with your strength. And the strength of this team is the defense, and they continue to show up and show out again. And a little deceptive on the 16, right? You know, you're going to start having some garbage time points here and there. That's natural. In fact, it's surprising it's taken this long for any garbage points to show up. And say what you want, but Altmaier played a pretty solid game yesterday by and large. He was putting the ball where he needed to at times. They were pushing the ball down the field when they needed to. By and large, I thought Altmaier played pretty well overall. Apologize, I'll coughing early this morning. But yeah, again, I think Ohio State continued to show up, and I think what was so impressive, again, that we have seen, and they continued to reiterate on the broadcast yesterday, was what this team does in the red zone. And as teams are actually getting closer to the goal line, they're probably starting to get more and more nervous now going against this Ohio State defense, which is just absolutely incredible. And I wish I'd screenshotted the stat that they flashed on the screen, but it was something along the lines of they've had 186 rushing attempts against them without allowing a rushing touchdown. I'm pretty sure that got broke on that first touchdown with the option play.
Yep.
But that's just, these stats are just unbelievable what they are doing against the run in the red zone. Yeah.
Just insane. And speaking of that handoff option, that is a play we need to put in our notes, all right? Because our red zone offense isn't the best in the world. That's something that we really, really need to work on. Sorry for bringing it back to offense, but you brought up that play, and I'm like, man, can we use that? Can we steal that? Because I love that play. That was a great call. It really, if they would have pounded it up the middle, I don't think they would have made it. And if we wouldn't have had that red zone stop in the first half to hold them to that field goal, imagine how different this game would have been. Because they marched it down in the second half and scored right away. It would have been 20-14. And then that's a one-score game, man. It's a completely different flow of the game than it would have been. And that's why this defense and them playing lights out is so critical, man. Absolutely critical. And while I'm talking about that, what's critical is Tywan Malone Jr., man. The way he played, the big stops that he had were absolutely lights out. The way he pirouetted off that blocker and threw the dude down. I know they said he was like a ballerina, so I had to say pirouette just to get that word in there. Anyway, it was a thing of beauty, really. It was graceful, and he made that tackle, and it was like, oh, dude's coming right at me. I can spin off this and get it. And it's what we needed. We needed a plugger in there, someone that could provide some depth, and finally, he's starting to shine, man. That's 2 games in a row where he's been like, all right, he's providing some depth there at the D line and quality depth.
Absolutely. And I think it was an overlooked piece last year because there was so much talent. And maybe again this year it's getting to be overlooked quite a bit. But elite defenses are starting around their defensive tackles. Mm-hmm. I mean, really the defensive line is the catalyst to that. But you really start at the D tackle position because you need them not only against the run, but you need them against the pass as well. You do need D tackles from time to time to be getting penetration in the pocket, disrupting the pocket, allowing your D ends to eat, and it's the backbone of everything else. If you're soaking up blocks, your linebackers can flow through. If you're getting pressure, it's better on the secondary. So what you've seen from the defensive tackle position by and large this year has been absolutely outstanding.
And I can't believe you haven't mentioned the 3 turnovers yet. 21 points off of turnovers. Wow. I mean, we had an average starting field position of the 45-yard line. And yes, you've been saying it for weeks now. The only thing, if I want to get nitpicky, you go ahead and say it. You've said it over and over and over again. Give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself some credit.
Well, that's the next iteration that we saw. This was a bordering on elite defense. The stats were proving that out. There was just one piece that was missing, and that was the turnover. And the turnover also is beneficial to the offensive side. You make a great point, starting field position. And that's where turnovers really start changing the game, is they put your offense in a better position to win. And that was the next iteration we wanted to see. And we're seeing it against a pretty good offense.
Absolutely. A good offense. Yeah, I mean, they were what? I think they were 24th in passing in the nation. So
they do lots of good things. I mean, they beat that Illinois, or they beat that USC team that dominated Michigan last night, which was a beautiful game. But I mean, Illinois can play, and if you actually look at their schedule, you wouldn't be shocked if they actually finished 10-2. That's a solid college football team. You went on the road, you dominated them. I don't care what the final score says. You were up 24 points going late into the 4th. So I think by and large, you did everything you needed to do against a really good team on the road. And the defense, to your point, which we're going to get into quite a bit later, I'm chomping at the bit for, on how the defense is really defining this team.
Oh, it is the team. This defense is the team. If this defense wasn't there, I don't know what this team would look like, to be honest with you. If it wasn't this elite, they set up the offense, like you said, always, really always. I mean, they give the momentum to this team. I think the offense is going to get there eventually to be more complementary, but it's going to take some time. It's not quite there yet. There's some identity pieces missing, which, like you said, we're going to get into. But biggest play of the game for the defense, what would you say it was?
Wow, that's off the cuff. That's a great question.
Because I have one in mind.
I would probably go with the first interception. One, because Matthews made an absolutely unbelievable play to set it up. And I think it set the tone early that you're going to struggle.
Yep.
And again, I think we all got to take this step back on the score. You know, it was 20-3. And then Illinois puts their fanciest package together, marches down the field to start the second half, makes it 20-10. You know what Ohio State did? They went and counteracted that. And at the end of the third quarter, Illinois had made up 0 ground. And in the second half, Ohio State outscored Illinois. So I think we got to take the pieces, parts that we saw and put this all in the context. But that starting play was basically saying, you're in for a hell of a day, Altmaier. And by and large, he was. But what about you? I want to hear yours.
Yeah, it's interesting because it involves the same players. So for your play, that interception. Oh, wait. Was it Peyton Pierce that got the interception?
Yeah, Pierce got the interception, but Matthews made the PB, the pass breakup in order for that to happen. Yeah.
So mine was the second half because they marched it down. They scored. Then we marched down and we scored that touchdown, C.J. Donaldson. But Jermaine Matthews comes off the edge, something we haven't seen a lot, the nickelback blitz, gets that sack fumble. We get the ball back and we score again. That was complete damper on the the game's over at that point. That was signed, sealed, delivered, put a stamp on that shit. We're taking that trophy and we're going home at that point.
That's a good point. It is because once that really happened, it was 34-10 then at that point. And everybody could breathe, right? It
was the Deflate Gate. It was over for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But again, it's all circling back. Our two examples are turnovers. Those changed that flow of that game. And that's what we really needed to see more of. And again, with an offense that we'll get to that is maybe not clicking, maybe not doing everything right, when you start setting them up in better and better field position, it's going to make those points flow a little bit easier.
Yeah. And the one thing that I wanted to point out, because I think we're transitioning into offense, but the one thing I wanted to point out was we had 3 possessions, started the third one in the first quarter, where against Washington, we had 6 possessions total for the game. That's what scoring and opening up with the pass and having a solid defense and creating turnovers will do. You could get more possessions even in a game that is constricted a little bit. The rules are different now. The clock's running all the time. So it really changes the amount this offense can get the ball and be dynamic with it. Now, I don't think the offense was as dynamic as I wanted it to be, but I have fully transitioned into offense, so we're talking offense now. They came out passing, right? They had 3 of their first 4 plays were a pass. And then they kind of got away with it or trying to balance that run in. I think they just did that a little bit too early, right? Because the passing was working. It was getting them down the field, and then they had to settle for a field goal. What's weird about this offense is I don't know that they have an identity in the red zone. From the 20 to the 20, they're passed to open up the run, right? Between the 20s, they know what they are. Once they get in the red zone, Ohio State is 44th in the country in red zone percentage, and they're averaging 71% for touchdown percentage within the red zone. So those aren't terrible numbers, but they're not good. They're not elite. It did look like they know now that they are a pass to set up the run type of offense. And what didn't help was really where I don't know when Bo Jackson got hurt, that ankle got hurt, but that didn't help at all because there was a couple runs that I saw with Donaldson where when we talked about this a little bit, me and you, he's just a straight up runner. He's a wide receiver runner. He does not lower his shoulder pads. And when he's running, he doesn't see the holes. He doesn't see the cutback lanes specifically. If the hole's meant to be there, he's going to hit that hole. But if it needs to change at all for any reason, if there's a cutback, or once you get into that second level, he's just trying to run through you. He's not trying to find the open space. And I think there was one in particular, and they showed the all-22 version of it, where he runs straight ahead, and it was a great run. He hit the hole hard, and he got 11 yards. But if Bo Jackson would have been there, he would have cut it back, behind the blocker, and probably would have housed it, whereas we had to settle for a field goal that time.
Yeah, that play sticks out because it was his longest run, and I think it's the longest run I've seen him have in a while. But you and I could have gotten 10 yards on that run because the offensive line and the blocking was elite. You see that wash down to the right. You see the kick out with the left. I mean, it was a massive hole. Looking at that running game, and that's a struggle. And the fact you see Peoples 5 carries, 7 yards, right? Start to have question marks there. So now you're starting to call into question, okay, what's the depth of that running back room looking like? I was curious to see, West got a few carries kind of towards the end. You can call it garbage time. But I'm starting to look now, who is the next person they're turning to when it's semi-garbage time, kind of close to the end? Because I'm hoping that's telling me these are players in practice who have been stepping up. These are players who want to start to maybe get a little bit of a look at. And I think to your point, Donaldson, there's a piece missing there. He's not a running back. There's something missing there. And again, the transition from wide receiver to running back makes sense. But I have to question, okay, we're not seeing it in Donaldson. You're clearly not seeing either the reps, the playing time, or something out of Peoples. What are you going to start to do in that running back room?
I actually was a little bit pleased with what I saw out of Peoples, only because it was the blocking when he had the ball where he was getting hit behind the line and he was making people miss. One play in particular, he got hit 4 yards behind the line, and I believe it was second down. And then he got a yard off of it. He spun off of 2 tacklers and ended up getting a yard. So it could have been a 4-yard loss, really put us in the hole for the third down. And he spun off of it, got those yards, and that was something I want to see out of him. It seems like it's just, honestly, he gets the bad luck. He gets the bad luck of the draw when he gets the ball, because there was several times he got hit behind the line. Started off bad. He did make something of it, and he was making people miss, spinning out of tackles. So I like to see the effort. I like to see that he's not going down on initial contact. And that was one of the biggest things I saw out of Peoples in the first 3 to 4 games, was if you touched him, he was going down. So that's refreshing to see, because I think it'll translate to the future when he gets an open hole, which I really want to see. Like, get an open hole, let him hit it, and see what kind of speed and vision he's got at the second level.
Agree. And I would say off of that, you want that open hole for 10, but what I really want to see from Peoples is, what do you do when that secondary guy is coming down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was.
That's the difference between a 12-yard gain and a 65-yard gain, is what do you do once the holes open up? You've taken care of the front 7. What about the back end 4? Is the safety tackling you for 12 yards, or do you make that special cut that differentiates you?
And that particular play I was talking about, that was the third possession, which looked absolutely awful, because it was the pass when JJ wasn't looking, and Peoples got hit 4 yards behind the backfield, gained a yard, but then boom, Carnell Tate bailed us out for 13 and got the first down. So that was that whole sequence, and it was nasty until Carnell Tate, which invites me back to the conversation. We got to get our playmakers the ball. We got to get Tate, and we got to get JJ the ball more. And then you do stuff, you design a play, the execution is just, it's off. Like, you design a play, you have 2 lead blockers to JJ coming around the edge. No one picks up the guy, just splits the middle of the blockers. I mean, that is like,
could not believe that play.
And he gets hurt too. I mean, it's like, come on. And I'm sorry that was bad with the win, but that's something that has to be cleaned up. Someone has to have the cojones to just go make the block. Like, you don't just like, oh, that guy's going to get it. It wouldn't be bad if you're both blocking them. That wouldn't hurt. But I think that was Max Clare that needed that one. He put his hands up afterwards, and I believe the pulling
Ceraveld.
Was it Ceraveld? Was looking inside to find any blocker inside.
It was very clear with that pull that he was looking. His assignment was, you need to get downfield and find that person. And it seemed pretty apparent that his eyes were looking towards the middle of the field for that purpose. And then Claire would probably be that outside wash down. I couldn't believe that play. That's definitely one that's going to stick out on film. But
you know what other one sticks out on film? That swing pass screen to Bo Jackson. Wow. It was set up. Like, they were talking on on the broadcast, Joel Klatt was like, "Oh, that was almost like a screen." It was absolutely a screen. It was designed for that. You don't have Max Clare out there just waiting to make a block, just sitting there like a duck in a pond, like ready. Well, I don't know if a duck in a pond is the right one, but like a lion in the grass ready to attack. He was sitting there waiting. I don't think that was a check down. I don't think that was any read. I think that was a purposeful screen on the sideline, and it was a beautiful play design, and I think it was set up to do exactly what it did. And Bo Jackson just showed what Bo Jackson can do. We need more plays like that in the red zone. Great play call. Great play call.
And right. I had to double check to see if that was the red zone. I had to stop myself. I wasn't sure. I thought it could have been outside the red zone, but
it might have been.
No, he had
right at the 20.
His longest catch was 17. So it was the red zone play.
Just barely, but it was.
No, I'd be a little bit curious with that play, only because I don't know if that was his first read.
It was a design screen all the way. Why would you have Claire out there? Why would you have Claire out there? Ready to block.
Layering.
Go back and look at that play.
Oh, I've seen it a few times. So
he wasn't looking to layer.
They looked like they were both looking at him. He was about 7 yards downfield. So that could be a natural progression in terms of, okay, I'm going to put a guy at 7 yards. I'm going to put a guy here. It seemed to work out well when he identified Jackson and hit him. That, okay, I'm going to turn and block now, and it worked out extremely well. I seem to recall that play taking a little bit of time to develop, and I don't know if it's because you want to get people in place or
that's like a screen. Screens always take a little bit of time to develop. You're letting everyone flow to the one side, and then you throw it back to the other where you have – it was like a tight end screen when you flow one way and come back. It was just a backfield, back out of the backfield screen. You had to get the pieces set up, and I think it was by far the best red zone play I've seen Ohio State call ever. Maybe ever.
Well, that's where we talked about it too, and I think the irony of this discussion is where the flaws of the offense are showing in the red zone or where the strengths of the defense are showing in the red zone, where as Ohio State continues to get closer to the goal line, what I think it's doing is it's minimizing the talent they have.
Sure.
I mean, yes. Can you throw a jump ball to Tate or Smith? Yes. Statistically, if it's thrown right, they're going to beat their DB more often than not. But the athleticism and the speed of the Ohio State offense starts to get minimized as you shrink the field. So as you get to the 5, to the 3, to the 2, you're losing a lot of the concepts you can run because you've shrunk the field to basically 12 yards by and large. When it's still out at the 17, you can run a lot more routes. You can do a lot of different things. So I think Ohio State's focus is not just the red zone, but the creativity, let's say inside the 8, inside the 5. Yeah. That's where you're going to have to get real creative.
If you want to talk about, throwing it up to Jeremiah Smith, there's no better play than this.
Wow.
That angle, let's watch it again. It's worth watching.
But that wasn't even a contested jump ball. No. I mean, that was, I'm going to get you on roller skates, and I'm just going to go. Yeah.
But what it was something on film, and it was a pretty damn ball too.
You know what they put on film? Don't have one-on-one coverage with Jeremiah Smith at the goal line. You can't do it because they will read something. Maybe this is something, and I hope they're working on it. If I ever see one-on-one, I'm saying whatever route you want to run, Jeremiah, I'll find you. If you think that slant's open, I'll find you. You think the fade's open, I'll find you. You think an out's going to work, I'll find you. Where it's not even a designed route. It's simply get open, catch ball. That you can't go one-on-one with him down in the goal
line. I don't know why anyone would. But when you stretch the field like that and you're constantly running inside, that's what they're gonna open up. I mean, the whole game has been C.J. Donaldson up the middle, C.J. Donaldson up the middle, and then Ohio State comes with that, you know.
And again, this is
really a great setup.
Offense. I think you saw it a few times, right? There were throws down the field. I still never felt like they were truly pushing the ball down the field, where, you know, there were a few catches in the teens, right? A couple in the 20s. So you're starting to see that intermediate passing game maybe grow a little bit, but I don't recall off the top of my head any shots downfield, right? Even if you miss, shots downfield have benefits. They stretch the field. I just never felt like we were truly pushing the ball down the field. And what I'd love to see at some point here early in a game is a drive where you are hitting 12 to 20 yards every time down there. And I know that's easier said than done, but really stretching that field is going to start developing the running game a little bit more. And you can't just keep getting away with these 5-yard hitches and these 7-yard outs and these kind of things. You have to be able to stretch that field.
I completely disagree. If you go back and look at what they were giving up, they were almost playing like a cover 3 at times, just keeping everything back and keeping it in front of you. And at that point, you just take what the defense gives you and you go all the way down the field with dinks and dunks and get those 7, get to 12-yard passes. And just keep doing it. Keep doing it. You saw every time they needed it, they got Tate on deep out. They got Jeremiah Smith over the middle. When you need it, and Tate and Jeremiah Smith doing the comeback. Like, just keep doing it.
You're not going to have that against great teams.
I know, but eventually you're going to get the sucking up, and then you do a comeback and go. And those are where you get your yardage. All right? You run that comeback, and then you turn around and take it deep and take a shot. Because they're going to jump up if you do comebacks, like, you know, let's say just 4 times in a row, and it's just open, boom. That's when you take your shot deep. You got to layer those play calls and set it up. In which what I think they did well in the red zone is they layered the play calls with C.J. Donaldson up the middle, C.J. Donaldson up the middle, and then that fade to Jeremiah Smith. So I think that they're trying to set it up. It's just a lot of times the execution isn't there, and this offense. It needs to get better. When we get a talent equated game, it needs to get better. Well, let's talk about this because we got some locker room comments coming in. L. Murdoch, are we predicting Ohio State, Miami will win out at this point, leaving that Michigan voodoo stuff aside?
I think it's going to be really hard to see any team win out in college football anymore. So I would have to say no. It doesn't mean Ohio State Miami is not the national championship game. I think you're starting to see that trending that way. I would be absolutely shocked if you're seeing one 16-0 team, let alone 2. I just think it's way too difficult nowadays.
Dude, I'm starting to think Indiana might be that team. As much as you don't want to say it, I could see Indiana being 16-0. They played well in the trenches against Oregon at Oregon, all right? And I know it's early in the season, but they won that game. And Mendoza is a hell of a quarterback, and I think he can pressure us down the field the way he's the only one that I'm scared of pressuring us, just how Altmaier did. But they would do it for the entire game. They're not going to game plan like Altmaier and Illinois did, where why not just run 2-minute offense the entire game? That's the type of situation I see from Indiana when we face them in the Big Ten championship game, because I think that's going to happen. And by the way, that will be an insane Big Ten championship game. I mean, that ticket's going to be expensive if that ends up being the case.
It will be, but this is again where you have to let the season play out a little bit more, because I think in watching Oregon, I've seen more explosive Oregon teams in the past. I've seen Oregon teams with better defenses in the past, better trenches, better quarterback play, even though Dante Moore has skyrocketed up a lot of pre-draft rankings and whatnot. This was a team I thought something was missing from. And even again, we're realizing that Penn State win, not a good win at all. Congratulations. Correct. You did the same thing Northwestern did. So not a good win. That's something that we have to ask ourselves. Now, I will say, traveling to Autzen, we can all attest to last year, Oregon had the longest home winning streak after the other two teams lost a few weeks back. It's a tough place to play, and you tip your cap. But you have to ask yourself, is Indiana really that good? Or is Oregon just not at the level that we've seen them at years past? I think time's going to tell with something like that. But
who's going to beat Indiana on their schedule? Who's left to beat them? They travel to Penn State. That was supposed to be their biggest game left.
It's not their biggest game left.
And while you're looking that up, El Murdoch, saying better than Howard, it appears. In some ways, yeah. I mean, the way he reads the field, makes quick decisions, and how fast he gets the ball out, definitely better than Howard. Howard has a different game. It's hard to compare the two. Saying's Heisman chances, I think, started off so poorly before he even played a game that it's hard for him to get back into it because he's not putting up gaudy stats, right? 166 yards this game. His completion percentage is excellent and elite, but I just don't think he gets the fanfare nationally. Maybe by the end of the season, when this offense starts opening up and realizing who they are and targeting those threats at wide receiver. Because I mean, Tate's elite too. I mean, the way he's running routes and the way he's getting open and the catches he's making, getting 2 feet down when he only needs one, he's going to be a star at the NFL level, and we all know that. So who needs to suck for Saying to get on top of the board? I don't even know who's on top of the board now. Mendoza's up there, I'm sure. And then you have, what's-his-face, Carson Beck from Miami. And I think those two are the front runners, and they would have to suck. But I don't think Saying's going to get that opportunity until the playoffs. I think by the playoff time, he's probably going to look like a Heisman quarterback, but he's not going to get that chance until then.
By the time you're in the playoffs, it's too late. The Heisman's already given.
That's what I mean. So I think that, next year is his year to really shine for the Heisman, and it should be Jeremiah Smith this year. But unless they start getting him the ball a little bit more and getting some flashy numbers, he's not going to win the Heisman either.
No.
And the reason why is because of what Buckeye Hicks is saying. The Buckeyes offense appears to be boring. Then you look up at the scoreboard and realizing it's slow, painless death approach, and that it provides to the opponent. That all of a sudden it's like, wow, this game's over. How did that happen? Where did it get over? And it's because the defense sets up the offense so much that it's easy for the offense to score. I'll agree with one thing. The way they set up the scoreboard with the field goals, they took field goals at the right time. And you mentioned that. They're playing like the NFL approach. And go into what exactly your thoughts were on that.
No, I appreciate it. And Buckeye Hits, it's like you set this up. I think maybe Steve screenshotted the text stream we were talking about. So what really stood out to me in this game, and it's been showing throughout the season this year, that you really haven't seen, I would probably say, in a very long time, maybe going back to Coach Trussell era, is taking field goals is important for this Ohio State team. And it's important for two reasons. One, I think Buckeye Hicks makes a great point. You're starting to add points, and this is an NFL mentality that you have. If you really watch an NFL game, especially two really good teams playing, whether it's regular season or postseason, you're looking at NFL teams saying, I need points. Points matter in the NFL because a lot of games are close, a lot of games are tight, and you start leaving 3 points on the table and go for it on fourth down and you miss. If you start going for 2 instead of taking extra points, those tend to come back to bite you in the ass late in the game in the NFL. You're seeing that mentality now with Coach Day, where he's saying, listen, it's fourth and 4 at the 13-yard line. I'm going to take the 3 points. And I'm going to take the 3 points because my defense is going to stifle you. And we're going to take a boa constrictor mentality here. We're not going to take a rattlesnake mentality where we bite you and you're dead. We're going to take a boa constrictor mentality where we're going to keep stacking 3 points, touchdown here, 13-0, 20-0. It's not super flashy, but I'll tell you right now, when Ohio State has 20 points up on the board, does any of us fear that the opposing team is going to somehow put together 3 touchdowns? No.
Hell no.
Yeah, but the game's a lot different if it's 14-0, if you don't kick those field goals, if you don't get that ball on 4th down. So Ryan Day has realized field goals is tightening the pressure on the opposing team's offense because our defense is so elite. All I need to do is start stacking points. And in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like it's a race to 21 for Ohio State. If we can get 20, 21 points on the board, our defense is not giving up 21 points. And I don't care about the 16. Again, the final 6 was garbage time. In reality, this defense against a pretty good quarterback on the road gave up 10 points going down the stretch into the 4th quarter. So that's where I was talking about this NFL mentality and this switch is almost, I'm curious if maybe Patricia's talked about this a little bit more, where he said, hey, when you start getting in Fielding's range, take the 3 points. Let's keep stacking points on this team because the opposing team's offense will not be able to put that many points on us. That was the point I was trying to get to.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely a valid point. And earlier in the season, when we were interviewing Ryan Day and interviewing Matt Patricia, Ryan Day did talk about we have conversations, and it was actually Heartline, and Heartline was saying, yeah, me and Matt Patricia talk after practices all the time, and we share strategies, and Patricia kind of joined in on that, and he's like, yeah, I love to talk football. Anytime I get the chance to talk football and strategy, I'm going to. So I talk to Heartline always and, tell them how I would attack them and what I'm seeing from my end. And I think that's an excellent point because they are doing that. And it's awesome to see, really. That's one of the benefits of having an NFL defensive coordinator there.
I agree. And again, this Ohio State team is actually looking like a team that plays on Sundays. And I'm not talking from a pure talent standpoint. I'm talking along the lines of the strategy and what they're employing, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball, is they're having an NFL mentality that says we're just going to drive down. We're going to do our job. We're going to stack points. You're not going to do much against our defense. It's a mindset shift where I would say even a few years ago, I remember when Ohio State marched down and kicked the field goal to start the game. Mm-hmm. I actually thought in my head, oh, shoot, okay, Illinois is going to go down and score. It's down 7-3. Now you're going to have to start matching. I had to stop myself and say, no. That was 2 years ago. That was 3 years ago. That was our entire lifetime before. It's a different mentality now. Our defense is going to stop. So what are we going to do on offense? Are we going to score a touchdown? Are we going to get in our field goal? How are we going to counteract that? But I wasn't worried about Illinois marching down the field and scoring a touchdown and having to trade touchdowns back and forth like we're so used to at Ohio State. We're used to our defense is not caught up with our offense. We're used to high flying, and how do we match touchdowns? That's not what this team is in the last 2 years. And you don't see that in the NFL either, by and large, anymore. A little bit more scoring in the NFL than what you used to see. But this is now about, okay, how quickly can our offense get to 20 points and beyond? And if we can get to 20 points and beyond, the other team's offense doesn't stand a chance.
Correct. I'm 100% in agreement with that. But what I want to, why is that NFL? Like, why is that an NFL approach? Is that what the NFL does by and large, is just take the points when they can get them and more field goals, less touchdowns?
The good coaches do. The good coaches know when to take the 3, when to kick the extra point, as opposed to going for it or going for 2. It's a lot harder to drive and score in the NFL than it is in college. Again, I think we have this mentality with Ohio State was, okay, we in 3 plays strike quickly like we always do. Or, we love watching a lot of Big 12 games back in the day, right, when it was 56, 52 games. College football had set itself up in a lot of ways to be quick scores. You could score at will, and it was okay giving up a touchdown.
Oops.
You kicked me backstage.
I cut you off, man. Yeah.
No. Actually, it was a perfect stopping point. But that again is, I think you said it too, with the running clock as opposed to stopping every first down. there is this shift now that you're seeing in college football where you're still going to go to a group of 6 games and in some games, right, where there's a ton of scoring, USF, North Texas, 99-point score. You're going to still see that in components of college football. But now you're starting to see with these SEC Big Ten games, and by and large, you are seeing a different style of football being played. You're seeing a lot of closer games being played by and large. And that is an NFL mentality.
All right, Mr. Bucknuts, I like this. The offense looks fine to me. I want to hear more on that, actually, because I think that they, like we said earlier, the 20-20, they look like they have an identity. Once they get in the red zone, I'm not sure if they know their identity. I think it's more of an efficiency thing than anything. They need to know what they want to do within the red zone, and they need to have another serviceable running back. That having Bo Jackson, you saw what happened when he went out, when he wasn't available. They weren't playing him as much because he had an injury. All right, when he was in there and you could run a screen pass to him like that and he could take it 17 yards to the house, it looked great. But it's playing complementary. It's playing to the defensive strengths, and I will take that. But I think when you get a talent-equated game, and by no means is this a talent-equated game. I mean, there is an awful lot more talent on Ohio State's team than there will ever be on an Illinois team. That's just what it is.
I'm going to reserve my right to criticize this offense until after the Michigan game. That's my opinion, and I'm going to stick with that. I was actually thinking along the lines of I was going to reserve my right until after a Penn State game. Mm-hmm. Penn State might not have a football team by the time we get to that game.
They definitely shouldn't have a head coach.
Yeah, we'll get in that at the end when we go around the league. But the point is I don't think Coach Day is showing you his hand. That's my opinion. I don't think he's showing it. I don't think he's opening it up. What I really want to see here in the next 5 games is I want to see play calls where Julian Sayin is making his progressions. I want to see him flat out look to one side, look to the middle, look to the left, or vice versa. I want to see him progressing because I don't think we're really seeing a lot of progression reading out of Sayin, which is very common for a redshirt freshman, right? You can't expect it that much. Underwood got obliterated.
Whoa. But you just slowed down like crazy. I don't know if it was on your end too, but it was like, woo, very electronic, but
it
should be all right.
Yeah, that connection. So that's where I want to piece those two concepts together. I don't know if Coach Day is concerned about Julian Sayin and his progression reading, and that's why he's kind of watered down the offense a little bit. Or my theory is the fact that he is intentionally not opening up the playbook because he wants that playbook starting to open up against Michigan. Because once you get to Michigan, if you play your cards right, you've got the Big Ten championship and then 3 playoff games. Or you could have 4 playoff games depending on how the season rolls out. But I think you look at even the Michigan game and you say with Michigan and beyond, you could have 5 to 6 more games. Like we're not 6-0 today and it's like, oh, we got 6 more games. Yeah. It's you got like these 2 5-game segments ahead of you still.
Yeah. You have a third of the season gone if you're going all the way.
Exactly. So I think he has intentionally kept a lot of things tight. He's watered things down quite a bit. And I look to see him slowly expanding that playbook. But we're going to tell him Michigan. I'll be very honest. If we're able to put up 38 points against Michigan and the offense is clicking, I think we can all look back on the conversations like these and laugh a little bit and say, yeah, that was right. He wasn't showing you his hand.
Ryan Day is just an evil genius.
I'm telling you, man, all the great coaches do it.
He did say he was looking in a very wide lens a lot of times. Like, first of all, our number one priority is the W, and the number 2 priority is hey, I want to get some stuff in and I want to develop for the season, looking through that wide lens. So, but I want to hit on a couple people's comments in the locker room because Al Murdoch, you're right on. These wide receivers are scary, not like Halloween, but like real ancient pagan ritual scary. Maybe Jeremiah Smith is our Heisman chance if we can get him the ball. That's the thing, because you did see some points where Jeremiah Smith was a little bit frustrated. In particular, there was that one possession where they tried to get the ball over the middle to, I believe it was Max Clare. Max Clare dropped it because he had a guy on him. Well, Jeremiah Smith was underneath of that about 5 to 7 yards running across the middle too. He beat his guy. But that big offensive line was right in front of him. I don't know if he saw that open up or not. And Jeremiah Smith got a little frustrated, which is why I put this picture up here, because what matters the most is that Illibuck. Look at that smile now. Like, you can have that frustration in the middle of the play. You know, we're like, I want the ball, I want to score, I want to make my stats. But if you're doing this at the end, that's what really matters. You got the W, you move on. It's all about the rings at the end of the season. So I think that there is definitely some validity to your point. Like, I don't think they're showing their hand. They're setting up little pieces of it here and there, like that red zone throw to Jeremiah Smith, or like that end around to Jeremiah Smith. I think you're going to see more of that as the season goes on and that as the talent gets closer to equated. I think they're looking at the film right now and they're like, we can beat this team when we want to. Let's try to do what we can do. Let our defense win the game. All right. And we'll, if we need to get to our offense, we will, but they don't need to right now. And the other portion of it is, you know, and we'll hit on this a little bit with Buckeye Hicks. He says, do we have a lack of identity on offense? Does the defense give us the privilege of not needing one? And I think you're absolutely right. Against teams like Illinois, we don't need one. We absolutely don't need an identity because we can let our defense do its job, hold them to 16 points, and we're going to find a way to score more than 16 points easily. And going back to your point before you get in there, I do want to talk about what Julian Sang's doing, because he's hitting a lot of these underneath routes and they're open. They're wide open because everyone's playing so deep. They're keeping everything in front of them. Every opponent's doing that with the exception of like Minnesota. For some reason, we're like, yeah, we're just going to man up and see what happens. They're playing deep. They're letting those underneath routes come wide open. So Sang's not having to read because there's just something open right away. So he hits that first one, and that's what he does best. If he sees it, it's open, you hit it. It's like he doesn't need to get out of his first or second read.
I think we have to ask the question, what do we want to see on offense? What is this expectation that we keep fighting against each other on every single week that says, like, we're not seeing this, we're not seeing that? What is it? Is it catches to Jeremiah? Is it points on the board? Is it this, that? And I bring all that up because I would challenge Buckeye Nation. What were the close games last year? What were the scores of games last year? What were we doing last year? And I say that to say I had to pull it up because I couldn't remember. And I'm saying that because at the end of the day, we are in a stretch where just go out and win the game. Yep. In October and November, go out and win the game. If you go back and look, Iowa last year, 35-7. Okay. What number there is mind-blowing? Nothing. Yeah. Nebraska, 21-17. What was mind-blowing about that offense? Penn State, 20-13. Even Purdue, 45-0. Like, that's good. It's really good. No, Northwestern, 31-7. I'm saying all this to say there's nothing about these numbers where you're beating teams 62-0. You're putting up 700 yards of offense. Everything's clicking perfectly. It's not, because October and November is about just win and move on. And then what you do is you start enhancing your playbook late November into December, which is exactly what this team did, disregard the Michigan game. But it's exactly what we saw starting in Tennessee. We saw a unique playbook, concept off a concept, and that's where they were really opening it up. And that's where you want this team clicking. So right now, winning the game yesterday, the way we did, 34-16, we're going to look back on that and be like, we forgot that game entirely next year.
Yeah.
Solid win.
We forgot that existed. You're right.
Did.
You're absolutely right.
That's what I have to start questioning. What are we really needing from this Ohio State team that we're not getting right now in October?
And if you look in the locker room's right spot on with what you're saying right now. Other than Bo Jackson, he looks good. The only thing we need is a power back, Mr. Bucknuts. I hope you're the Mr. Bucknuts, because that's pretty awesome.
That would be awesome if that's the case.
Yeah. And in the Dayton area, I may add. So if you are Mr. Bucknuts, I'll go get a sandwich today in, I think it's Kettering, right? Yeah. Anyway, the offense is about time of possession, ball control day. Looking for the perfect combination, perfect combo, identity-wise. He wants the offense state of the art.
I want it state of the art too, starting December 19th. Correct. Or God willing, December 31st if we have a bye. That's where I want state of the art. That's what we got last year. I don't need state of the art in October.
Yeah.
I don't need it in November. What I need right now, survive in advance.
If this is what Day's doing, and we're going to look at this next year too, because you went through those games, the 35-7, the 21-17, 45-0, 31-7, against really a bunch of lower Big Ten teams, with the exception of maybe Nebraska, and they gave us a game. And I remember worried about that game, but without going back and looking at the schedule, I'm not remembering Nebraska being a 21-17 game, and you're absolutely right. And Doug Shepard, spot on, member of the locker room. I think that they're absolutely holding plays back for when they need them. I hope anyways. Yeah. And I think that's all of our hopes right now, is like this offense just doesn't seem to be hitting on all the cylinders that it could be, right?
But what does that mean? What does that really mean?
It means they're not showing all their hands.
Good.
Right? They're
Good.
they're playing a long-term approach.
Over. And this is where I look at somebody like Miami. Everybody loves that hot darling team like the Miami Hurricanes. Great. Let's see what they do in November and December. Let's see. It's not about what you do in September and October. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Also experimenting with opponents, believe it or not. And I do think so. Like I've talked about it a couple times, and it seems like Ohio State is playing with their food before they eat it. Like, what can we get away with here and win this game? Like, how can we design plays that we may need to use later on and use them today to be excellent with them by the end of the season?
I'm going to shoot a little bit on the hip on this one, but I think I'm right. I want to believe that the first three catches yesterday were Innis, Tate, Smith. Maybe not in that order, but the point
was absolutely in that order.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is I like the fact that you're saying, okay, we're gonna feed everybody a little bit early on. And the point was like, okay, I'll get Innis, I'll get you a catch or two. Tate, I'll get you a catch or two. Smith, you're going to get yours. Maybe we'll get Claire involved. But I like this where he's starting to design these first couple series of let's get everybody's feet wet a little bit.
Correct. Yeah, and Buckeye Hicks, it's almost like a modern-day Woody Hayes offense. Get what you can get, then challenge them with a punch in the mouth from the D. You know what? That's spot on. You're treating this passing game a little bit like the running game, like you said, hitting those open ones. But I also do think it's really what the defenses are doing to hold us from getting anything deep. They don't want us taking a deep shot because we have all world wide receivers. And I've said it like 2 or 3 times already. Go back, look at the tape, look at what's open. I thought Fox did an absolutely fabulous job of showing where there's openings in the zone. They put that little circle with the hash marks in it. And I thought that was great. Those yellow signs were showing you, hey, this is the open spot of the field. And Ohio State was hitting him. Saying was hitting them. That's what you want to see from Julian Saying. Right now, at this time of year, that's what I want to see. So I guess everyone's convincing me that there's nothing to worry about. And Day is doing what we want him to be doing, if that's the case.
I think
and relying on the defense.
We want everything figured out now. That's our fan mentality. I don't want everything figured out now. I want there to be stuff behind the curtain. And the beauty of a defense being better than your offense is defenses by and large tend to be consistent throughout a season. Defenses tend to travel. Defenses tend to overcome weather games, whether it's rainy, windy, cold. Your defense by and large stays pretty consistent on who they are. What you want to see from offense is progression throughout the season. I do not want to see a clicking offense in September, October. I want to see it in December.
Sure.
So that's where I think you are seeing this team looking at this from August 30th through January 19th is a hell of a long period of time. Let's utilize that long period of time. And let's not be the darlings in October. Nobody cares who's in number one in ESPN's power rankings in October. It is meaningless.
But you don't have to squint your eyes very much to notice that the strength of our offense is the wide receivers and getting them the ball in space.
It is, but the beauty of having that talent is I can probably get them in space when I want to.
Correct.
And what am I showing you on film that's going to set me up in December? What packages, what patterns? How am I going to break off those concepts? And I think to your point, you had mentioned earlier about, playing a deep cover 3 that Illinois was. Now the iteration is, how are you attacking 15 to 20? That's what I really want to see, because that is the holes in a deep cover 3. Correct. Is you typically have that 7 to 10 yard zone covered underneath, and then you got the deep thirds covered. How you truly attack that is you got to get that ball over that linebacker and into that 15 to 20 yard space, especially over the middle. I want to see Sayin attacking the middle of the field a little bit more. And I'll tell you right now, with a young quarterback, they tend to get nervous that because they scream, don't go high over the middle. Make sure you hit the right target. When you go high on the outside, it's easy because if you miss, it's an incomplete pass. Yeah. It's scary over the middle. I want to start seeing Julian Sayin attacking the middle of the field, I would say from the 8 to 20 yard range.
And you're right. That is Ryan Day's offense to a T. Like when it's humming, that middle of the field is where he's attacking with deep crosses.
Because no zone can cover it. No zone can cover it.
Correct. Let's get back to the defense. Boa Constrictor defense is fantastic. I may be stealing when I'm talking about friends and foes, but when we look back 30 years from now, the Ohio State defensive numbers, this team is going to be top 2 or 3. As of right now, they're pushing for 1.
I think they're better than last year's.
Correct.
Which is crazy to say.
Yeah. And so we got to give this defense all the credit we can, because I think it's giving Ryan Day the opportunity to play like he's playing. Would we play like this if we didn't have this defense?
No. And honestly, I think you would probably see him showing his hand on offense a little bit more. You might see some more turnovers too. Again, we have to realize Julian Sayin's played 6 college football games. He's played 2 games on the road. We can't sit here and expect him to come out of the package pristine and doing everything right. He's going to make some plays, but you have to give him those game day reps and that experience. And this is where what I'd want to see from Coach Day is, let's get out to that 14, 17-0 lead and give him a little bit of comfort to say, okay, kid, let's start slinging it over the middle of the field. You throw a pick, right? I don't need that out of the first series. I don't need it so much out of a tight game. But now is about the game reps and experience of what he's going to get exposed to, really starting in Ann Arbor.
Absolutely. El Murdoch, I think El Murdoch's part of the locker room now, man. He was there a few weeks back. We got to see another week, I guess. What do you think?
He's doing great.
Doing great today. Your comments are great.
The comments. Thank you all. They've been outstanding.
Everything in the locker room has been awesome. I appreciate having Mr. Bucknuts in here. Doug Shepard's always in here, so we got to give him credit. We call our locker room or our comment section the locker room because we want to get you guys in here. We want you to be part of the show. Everything that the guys that we're getting in here, guys and gals that we're getting in here are awesome. The comments are off the charts, perfect. And Doug, has anyone scored less than 17 against Altmaier or against Illinois? I don't know. Anyway, Ryan Day has to beat Michigan in order to win AP Coach of the Year. This is the year that Ryan Day could win Coach of the Year. And if he continues to win like he's winning, he should. Does it matter? I don't know. He probably won't win Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Doesn't matter, nor should it. You know what? I'm sure Kurt Signetti would love to have Big Ten Coach of the Year. Ryan Day's laughing with a cigar. Who cares? Yeah, as long as you're lifting trophies, doing one of these at the end of the year, boom. Yeah, I mean, look at the smiles of the team. Like, they are happy with a win, and we should be too. Like, and I agree with you. I think Ryan Day's playing chess, not checkers, and he's waiting until the end of the year to really show what he's got. And I do think he's also building the confidence with saying, we don't want those mistakes. We want them to hit what's open, take those, and let's go. Let's move on. Let's let this defense put us in the position to win the game. But let's move on. We've talked about this enough. Let's talk about the rest of the Big Ten, because great comment right here by Mr. Bucknuts. On another note, Indiana, Washington, and USC are all ascending. What I want to know is, do you think Washington's going to be ranked? Because they absolutely should be at 5-1. Why they're not already at 4-1? If they were Missouri, they'd be ranked. I don't know why Washington's not. They should be. Is USC going to be ranked after beating Michigan? They should be. And the way they looked, absolutely they should be. And Mr. Bucknuts thinks that Oregon is going to get beat by USC or Washington. Translation: I think OSU, Indiana, USC, Washington all make the college football playoffs. Oh, that's a hot take. I don't think Washington makes it, but I could see USC making it, absolutely. And again, USC should have the name brand to be ranked at 4-1. Don't understand that. If they were in the SEC, they'd be ranked. I would have laughed at you until you said the Missouri comment, and then I realized, oh yeah, you're spot on. How a Missouri team that really hasn't played much of anybody is ranked 14th. But then I turn around and tell everybody up here in Seattle, you got a good team, but you haven't beaten anybody. I would say that with Washington, I got to see more out of Washington, and I think you're going to see it at the Big House next week. You're going to see what this Washington team really is going on the road. Now, to be fair, they did go to the Big House, I want to say 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When did we play Oregon? Was that 21 at home?
2021, yeah. Because
okay,
that was when
2021.
That was when Stroud had just won and got hurt against Minnesota, and then they lost to Cristobal, which Cristobal's 1-0 against Day. That will be some story.
I only say that because I remember that day, because I remember Oregon played Ohio State and Washington played Michigan. Washington went to the Big House there. So they have been there relatively recently. Probably not a lot of the players left on that team are still there, but they have done it. Washington has the next 2 weeks. They have Michigan and Illinois. We're going to see what Washington is. You also look at that final week against Oregon. It is at Husky Stadium. That's a rivalry game, so you have no idea how that's going to play out. I think Washington should absolutely be ranked going into this week. When your only loss on the season is against the number one team in the country, you shouldn't be penalized for that. I think they should. USC should absolutely be ranked.
Illinois should be ranked.
Illinois should be too. Illinois'
two
losses.
top 5 teams.
Yeah.
Like, you're probably talking about teams that are going to be going far in the playoffs. And to say that about I love everything about Indiana being good. They did everything that you would expect teams in the Big Ten to do. This is the best conference in the nation. They're spending the money, they're developing, and they're putting back resources into their football program. Anyone in the Big Ten could do it. They have the cash. They have that Fox money. Why aren't they? Indiana is, and they're reaping the benefits. Everyone else is getting left behind.
No, Indiana did it right. They hired the right coach. They got the right situation in. They've done a lot of things well, and I think they have that chance of being in there. But I think, Indiana probably moves up to 3 or 4, somewhere in that range. USC should be ranked. I'd be curious about Michigan being ranked. 2 losses against good teams. I mean, Oklahoma, it's hard to gauge with them because their quarterback's injured. So I think it's tough to get that feel. Oregon absolutely will be ranked as well. And I think Washington could be ranked by and large. I would say a sneaky team to keep your eye on is Nebraska.
Yeah.
Nebraska's 5-1.
Yeah.
Their only loss was 3 points against Michigan, which, again, this Michigan team still has a lot of talent. And I kept having to tell the Michigan people I know, you're starting a true freshman in the Big Ten. Let's pump the brakes. I don't care how elite you are. Nebraska saw this last year with Raiola. Raiola's a great quarterback. He was a true freshman. You're not going to win in a major power conference, Big Ten, SEC, with a true freshman quarterback. Doesn't mean they're not elite. It just means it's really tough to do, to go from playing high school ball last year to go play Big Ten football the next year. So I think Michigan's still going to be a scary team, especially when Underwood gets more games under him. But yeah, I think the Bucknuts point. I think the Big Ten's really powerful, and I think if you switch SEC and Big Ten logos, you'd probably see 8 of these teams ranked.
Absolutely, you would, for sure. The AP still has that mentality that we're ranking the SEC just because they're SEC, even though head-to-head and when the games that matter the most, the Big Ten's winning it. If the Big Ten goes and pulls a national title again, I mean, that's got to stop. I mean, it just stop. It has to stop.
ESPN is the engine that runs coverage.
That's
you can
true.
talk about Fox, you can talk about CBS all you want. ESPN's the engine. They have an exclusive rights deal with the SEC. It is in ESPN's best interest that the SEC is the best conference, so that when they put their entire SEC slate, which you all see every Saturday, it's 1, 2, 3 games, all SEC. They want a bunch of numbers on that screen. Yeah. It is in their best business interest that happens. It's business, not personal.
And Day won't get credit. Yeah, back to the AP voting, Coach of the Year. He won't get credit for winning. They'll say he has too much talent, and maybe.
Oh, I mean, here, take a step back, everybody. I always say this: LeBron James won 2 MVPs in his entire career? That's ridiculous. For 20 years, he was the best player in the NBA, right? And you can say this with coaches like Andy Reid. You could say this with a lot of different players and coaches throughout all the major sports. I don't care who wins Coach of the Year. I don't care who wins MVP of the year, because it's a popularity contest. The best players, they will not give it to every single year. Ryan Day's the best coach in college football right now.
Yep.
And he probably won't win it. And I could not care less.
And I hope he doesn't either. I'm sure he doesn't.
I'm sure he doesn't. Unless there's some $250,000 incentive in his contract. Short of that, I doubt he cares.
Mr. Bucknuts, this is a good point. We ain't getting credit for beating good teams. Washington, Texas, Illinois are all good teams. In fact, Illinois should still be ranked. They should.
Absolutely. What was Notre Dame? Notre Dame was ranked 16th? And I understand that ranking because they've lost to 2 top 5 teams. I'm not knocking Notre Dame for that. I'm making the argument for Illinois that Illinois has lost to 2 top 5 teams. So if Illinois drops out of the rankings, but you have Notre Dame at 16, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'll put it back up there for you. I like it that much. I think that this is an awesome picture. This shows you like real football, real locker room. Like all these guys are proud with any win. They're going to be excited. And us fans, we're always looking for something to be negative about. And we're, today even we're a little negative on the offense. This is our approach we need to have. We got that W, moving on to the next one. Best thing about 6-0, going 7-0. Oh man, yeah. How have we not talked about this yet? What about Northwestern? What about Northwestern? Holy hell, Franklin. I guess we did bring it up a little bit. But man, Northwestern's 3-1 in the Big Ten. UCLA's 3-1 in the Big Ten. Like, they have a legit shot at winning the Big Ten. I mean, I know it's probably not going to happen, but they have a shot at it. Both Northwestern and UCLA. That's absolutely crazy. And then you have Penn State at the bottom of the Big Ten.
I mean, we haven't talked about it because I don't even know how to broach the subject. Where you know, when you saw Penn State preseason ranked number 2, I don't think any of us argued that.
Yeah.
They have a ton of talent. You know,
Correct.
By and large, James Franklin has won the majority of his games. We can talk about the ranked teams, top 10, whatever, but he's won the majority. And then you look at this cupcake schedule that they have where they played Villanova, Nevada, FIU. So you're like, okay, 3-0. You know, worst case scenario, you start looking at their schedule and you're saying, okay, 10-2, they lose to Oregon, Ohio State. Worst case scenario, they're still in a position to be in the playoffs. They have a lot of talent. A lot of things can happen in the playoffs. We proved that last year. That was the mentality we all had. To absolutely implode the way they have is unreal, especially when you go out and sign a defensive coordinator to the highest contract in college football for a coordinating position. Nobody could see this coming. And this is now a point in time where you have to ask yourself, what do we do? Because you can't afford a $53 million buyout. And you made the point last week, Franklin's not stepping down. Why would he step down? He has no reason to. No. So you are in a really bad position now with Penn State. And I'll tell you right now, this is where, if you really want to go to the athletic directors in college football, you have to start basically coming together and saying, we're not going to do these buyouts anymore. I mean, look at Jimbo Fisher and A&M. That was a $72 million buyout. Now, granted, a lot of money in Texas, a lot of oil money. They probably figured it out. But now you look at Franklin and you're saying, okay, $53 million, like, we can't do that. Most schools can't do that. And to your point you made last year quite a bit, you got to pay coordinators and everyone as well too. Mm-hmm. I think you got to get to a point in college football where this buyout concept is insane. Mm-hmm. And if I'm an athletic director, I'm basically saying, no, there's no buyout. Mm-hmm. Why? And if you all come together, you can call it collusion all you want, or you can call it logic and just say, we're not going to do this anymore. Because when we give you a top 5 talented team, and you're now sitting, what, 4-3, 3-3? They're 3-3.
3-3.
Yeah. Without a win against a Power 4 team.
Like, all their wins are garbage. Absolutely garbage wins. Is this a product of not being tested at all in the preseason? I mean, does that have anything to do with it? Now, all of a sudden, you're facing actual talent. Even if it's Northwestern talent, it's better than Villanova.
I don't think Penn State or James Franklin have truly ever had to overcome adversity. I think it's a culture problem. And you can go back and say they were in the Final Four. You beat SMU and Boise State. You had a joke of a path to get there. You don't actually play good teams. You don't. And when they finally do, they get beat. So I think that culture in that locker room is simply saying, we're good enough. We win the good enough games. We're good enough to go out there and do it. We're not elite. And this is, again, that iteration that you're seeing with Coach Day in this shift in the organization where back in the day, we used to get worried about those big non-conference games or the big-time games against top 10 teams. Not anymore at Ohio State. Penn State has not overcome that.
Doug, this is funny, but not funny at all at the same time. And I'll throw it up there. It's to get rid of Franklin in the buyout. Like, that is
no.
You just crossed the line, Doug.
Dude, get that off the screen.
You just crossed the line, Doug.
Get that off the screen.
Absolutely hilarious. But wrong.
That's about supporting, the Huskies up here. About being right.
We need to. I mean, 5-1.
Yeah, but
Big Ten team. And still, yes, maybe they haven't faced anyone, but them not being ranked is a crime.
This is
when
it.
If they do lose that second game, then there's no way for them to get ranked. That's the problem. You don't bump them up when they need to be bumped up in the Big Ten, especially at the bottom of the Big Ten, which is why it makes the bottom of the Big Ten look bad. And I absolutely think this is the best conference. I agree with you, Doug. And this is why we have this narrative, Buckeye Hicks, that the Big Ten has a better top three, but I believe the SEC has a stronger middle. Everyone in the middle gets ranked, and ESPN is throwing that out there. And they keep on pounding it down people's throats because it's making them money. But the middle of the Big Ten is good too. Look at last year. Go back to last year's bowl games and look. The middle of the Big Ten dominated the SEC. And I know that doesn't matter like it used to, but it's still a head-to-head, and it's the only thing we have.
Yeah, bowl records are irrelevant anymore with the transfer portal. Here's the problem, and this is where the Big Ten commissioner needs to step in. I'm calling Indiana, Washington, Penn State, Nebraska, and I'm saying stop with the cupcake non-conference schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You need a Power 4 team every year. In fact, I would even take it a step further. I'm actually comfortable with 2, by and large. Where you look at Indiana, nobody in the non-conference. You look at Washington, nobody in the non-conference. At least Nebraska played Cincinnati, which, by the way, is 3rd in the Big 12. So at least they tried. But
wait, let me hold you on that. Cincinnati's 3rd in the Big 12?
They
Have they lost again?
Did they lose again? Yeah, they lost in Nebraska.
No, I mean in the Big 12.
No, they're 3-0. They're tied for first with BYU and Texas Tech.
All right, so they're first. They're not 3rd.
Yeah,
tied for first.
I was looking at the fact they have 1 loss, but yeah, you're right. But this is where okay, Big Ten, you want to start taking that next leap. I will look at the SEC by and large. And Missouri, to your point, has not played a great non-conference game yet. But by and large, they're playing better quality teams. And if you look at Ohio State and Michigan's doing it. Michigan every year. They had Texas last year. They had Oklahoma this year. So they're doing it. Ohio State's doing it. It has to become a mandate now. You need a really good quality opponent on your schedule because that is where you're going to start showing yourself against the SEC. You're going to have those quality wins. Nobody wants to talk on College Game Day about Washington or a lot of these other teams because they can't point to something and say, well, they won that game or they played that game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the problem. Our scheduling stinks. Our scheduling stinks at the Big Ten, and they need to elevate it. And Indiana had a chance to. You could have thrown a good team on your schedule this year. They chose not to. That's why I will question Indiana. Because you're not a great team when you play 1 or 2 tough games a year.
But back to my point, what did Auburn and Missouri do to be ranked? And South Carolina?
Auburn wasn't ranked.
Auburn was ranked at the beginning of the year. Not this past week. But when they started off 3-0, I believe that they were ranked in the 20s.
They played Baylor.
Okay.
Which is not – I'm not going to tout it, but again, let's start looking at Indiana and Penn State's non-conference.
That's worth it.
Let's look at Washington State's non-conference. I mean, in South Carolina may not be a great team, but they may have the best quarterback in the country, may be the number 1 pick in the draft next year. So there is a lot of buzz around Lenora Sellers. So I get that. The Missouri thing, I do have to question quite a bit. When your non-conference is Central Arkansas, Kansas, and Louisiana, right? Mm-hmm. And then they played UMass. So, the Missouri thing, I think that's where Big Ten fans do have a point because I would actually say Washington's non-conference is better than Missouri's, and you're seeing Missouri at 14. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, especially at 14.
But again, with Washington, they have struggled to do a lot of non-conference big games. They need to get that back on the schedule. Same, Nebraska was fine too. Indiana absolutely must now to elevate their program.
Yep. El Murdoch. Yeah. I mean, Nebraska coming back has been fun to see. And they got to focus on ascending. Yeah. There are like 5 or 6 teams in the Big Ten that are rising way up to semi-elite status or more. I don't want to throw out elite and semi in the same sentence. So I would just say that the second tier, because elite, I don't think elite should be used with semi-elite. I don't know. To me, my brain doesn't wrap around that. But
I mean, you can make an argument. You can make an argument in a few hours that there could or should be 8 ranked Big Ten teams with Ohio State, Indiana, USC, Oregon, Michigan, Nebraska, Washington, Illinois. In my opinion, those 8
absolutely should be ranked. Yeah, I agree.
Be ranked.
Yeah,
but and I think the Buckeye Hicks point, when you look at the SEC, it's a lot of this middling ground.
Did you see Nebraska too?
Yes, Nebraska's 5-1 with a win over a team that's tied atop the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that. Got to go into some of this. Yeah, the Knitting Kittens were letting Oregon beat them 3 times in a row. Right? You go back to the Big Ten championship game. When was the last time other than that? I'm trying to think.
The last time for what?
Did Penn State lose to Oregon 3 times in a row?
Maybe.
Big Ten championship game last year and then 2 weeks ago. Or a week ago.
I don't know the time before that. I mean, it could have been a while ago.
Anyway, still, Oregon fans got in their heads after that win, and they got cocky. Yeah. The win at Penn State means nothing now. Absolutely nothing. It is an environment that you went into. I'll give them that. And you got in there in the whiteout and you came out with a win. So congratulations, because that's hard to do. Hard to do anywhere. Yeah. Yep. Prabula. Yeah. And let Aller walk. Yeah. He was fun to watch. We are. I know you're joking, Doug. I know you're joking.
I was listening to ESPN 850 Cleveland Friday, and Jake Trotter, I know, college football analyst for ESPN, but he was talking about Aller quite a bit because Aller's a Cleveland boy, right? So a lot of people keep their eyes on him. And he made this great comment around the fact that if you get Drew Aller on a practice field, or let's say we get him at the combine, right? He's going to marvel people. Like he has every throw. He has the arm strength. He has the accuracy. He looks incredible on that practice field or combine field. Something's missing when he steps onto a game field. And I don't know if it's offensive concept at Penn State or if it's above the shoulders for him. I don't know, but it's really interesting to see a kid with the size, the tools, the talent, and it's just simply not translating on the field. And now we're not going to see it at all. He's done in college football. So
yeah. And Doug, this is a good point. I completely went right over my head. So that Penn State is letting Oregon beat them 3 times within the loss to Oregon, then UCLA, then Northwestern. And it kind of is. I mean, they just went down after that.
It doesn't make sense because you typically don't see that in college football because of talent. And let's be perfectly clear, Penn State, at least on paper, has vastly superior talent to UCLA and Northwestern. Maybe Doug's right. Maybe it is mental, but you do not see those kind of slides in college football. It's a culture problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you again. I agree with both these next comments. The preseason rankings are to blame. You have lazy AP voters, and then Buckeye Hicks follows up Doug Shepard. Preseason rankings are fine. It's the inability to move them from their rankings by the AP that is the problem. I agree with both of those, absolutely. There needs to be way bigger adjustments. Like right now, it would be okay if voters put Indiana number 1 based on what they have done. Those 2 wins, it would be okay. And yes, am I arguing that they are? No, but you need to have that volatility until you get to week 8, where you have more statistics to back it up. You need all those data points in order to make that proper decision. And you don't get data points, real data points. And I mean, Ohio State's beat some good teams. Is Texas going to be ranked? Is Washington going to be ranked? They should be. Is Illinois going to be ranked? They should be. But I don't know that 2 of those are going to be ranked. Texas will jump back up in there.
They should. But this is where you have to look at the body of a schedule. And 2 things with this. It's why the committee waits until early November to release their first rankings. They understand you need to have a body of work. We all can hate the AP poll and the numbers next to them. That's never going to go away because they want those numbers early on for viewership and ratings. But I got to say with Indiana, yes, so far so good. But again, you look at their schedule now, they have 2 tough games on their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Illinois and Oregon, you've already won them. I mean, Penn State would have been the 3rd, but it's not anymore. So this is where to really position yourself and say you're the best team in the country. No, you're not. You have 2 quality games on your schedule. I mean, Ohio State's going to have a better quality schedule than Indiana. And Miami has a better quality schedule than Indiana. So this is, again, Indiana, I'm not going to take you seriously until you start going out and scheduling better, at least in the non-conference. And they had their chance to this year. Last year, Last year, nobody saw them coming. You have a cupcake schedule because you're Indiana and you never thought you were going to be good. I'm fine with last year's schedule. There's no excuse this year to not throw a good Power 4 team. Let me read their non-conference. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. Indiana should be punished for that. I'm not going to reward them when Miami has to play Notre Dame and Ohio State has to play Texas. You don't get rewarded for bad scheduling.
Touche. I agree with you. You shouldn't. Yeah.
No.
But, I mean, what have you done so far with what you do have?
You've done good. And that's where, again, the conference
schedule. Beat the number 3 team in the nation. Like, you've got to give them credit for that. I mean, I don't know what Oregon's going to be ranked now. I'm assuming that's going to flip. It's going to be that Indiana's 3rd and Oregon's 7.
Possibly, but I've never been a big fan of punishing a team for losing to a top 5 team. That you shouldn't be punished that much for it. So if Oregon goes to 7, I'm fine with that. I don't want to see them slip much further, but you shouldn't be punished. And you're right. Indiana is making the most of what they have, but that's where your conference schedule, you don't have a lot of control over. What you do have control over is your non-conference. And if you think that you're going to be a really good team and you proactively go out and do not schedule quality non-conference opponents, then you should be punished for that.
I don't think I ever went back and looked at James Franklin's coaching career, but I just kind of assumed that he was a defensive guy. He's an offensive guy.
That's even worse.
He was like, you go back to before he was a head coach, he was at Maryland. He was a offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Before that, Kansas State offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. Before that, Green Bay wide receiver coach, Maryland wide receiver coach, Idaho State wide receiver coach, Washington State tight end coach, James Madison wide receiver, and I think a high school team, Rose Clyde offensive coordinator. Yeah, I think he was a high school coach back in the mid-90s.
Listen, it's done at Penn State. It's done with Penn State and James Franklin. Do they get out of it or not? I can't say, but he has not developed any semblance of an offense there whatsoever. I mean, last year was a joke where you play playoff games and you're not even completing a pass to a wide receiver. It's a joke. But there may be no pathway out short of, I think we've talked before, like Jim Knowles may take the Oklahoma State job, right? So you can get out of that big contract. Franklin and them maybe mutually agree to a reduced buyout because all parties agree like it's just not working here. Short of significant compromise in shifting in coordinators, they're stuck together.
Danny O'Brien is the current quarterback coach for Penn State, entering his 5th season. Yeah, he's someone that you definitely need to look at upgrading with. Don't know a lot about him, but
I'm glad we're talking all this because I want to go back to what we talked about last week, and we need to continue this through line throughout the course of the season. We have an elite coaching staff at Ohio State, and it's not being truly recognized. Where I challenged you last week, go watch other college football games. Go look and see where the elite coaching is coming from, and it's hard to find. And what Ryan Day has done is he has elevated the entire coaching staff to this level that we're not seeing. And it's not just about the X's and O's, Jimmy and Joe's on the field. You're seeing it permeate throughout the culture of the building, throughout everything they do. And now you're seeing a culture at Ohio State, which is not just winning. It's we expect to win. We expect to grade out as champions every week. We expect to make every block, every catch, every play. And when you don't, we're going to talk about it. We're going to say, hey, we got to clean things up. We got to get better. We're going to have shows like ours that are going to nitpick the little things. And it's not because we're trying to put down Ohio State. It's because Coach Day has set the bar at elite. And if you're not elite, we're going to call you out for it. You're not seeing that by and large in college football, period.
Yeah.
And that's where Ohio State is at. And that's why we get to rip on James Franklin. I would say short of, I'll tell you what, where I would say maybe the team that might be closest to it, Texas A&M and Mike Elko. He has done a hell of a job down there.
I've been
a really smart dude. And he has got that program humming.
I've been giving Texas A&M preps just because of Mike Elko. And I do believe you were like, I'm not going to believe it till I see it because it was Texas A&M. And they've had all those years.
I know.
Under Jimbo that it was just like, come on. Rank them just because it's Jimbo. And then they fall into nothing. But I agree. Mike Elko was a great coaching hire. We'll see what's going on there. And Texas A&M seems to be the real deal. So as of right now, if you have to pick a playoff team from each conference, who are you picking? I mean, because is the Big 12, they're only getting in one, right? And the ACC, maybe two?
ACC, I would pick Miami.
Miami for sure.
Big 12, I would pick Texas A&M.
Yep.
Big 10's Ohio State.
Okay.
And I would say in the SEC, I would say Texas A&M.
A&M is the lead dog in the SEC?
I think they will be. I don't know. Alabama, I like them all along. I think they are clicking. I would probably do a coin toss between A&M and Alabama. Georgia has no offense. Let's be very clear about that. Georgia has no offense. Ole Miss barely survived the Cougars.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
That's Lane Kiffin, man. He's a roller coaster ride, and the problem is you just don't know when the roller coaster's up or when the roller coaster's down. And I don't trust Ole Miss whatsoever. I think Elko has instilled stability there, and I think Kalen DeBoer instilled stability at Alabama.
Is Elko better than Kirby Smart?
No, Kirby's got 2 titles, so no.
Yeah, until you get to that level.
Kirby Smart's at a different level. He's a great coach.
All right, so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Texas A&M, OSU, Texas Tech, and then we got Miami as the 4 from the power conferences. Then you're going to take the outlier at the 12th position, and that's going to be one of the.
I think it's going to be South Florida or Memphis, and those 2 teams play in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I think that South Florida Memphis game. All kidding aside, I think that's going to be the deciding game.
Be nice to see Navy sneak in there.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I don't think. So
between South Florida and Memphis, how many teams as of right now, if you had to say it, are going in from the Big Ten?
3.
So 3. You got Ohio State, you got Indiana,
and Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Trying to think of anyone else. Oh, USC, depending on what they do. is one that I think can sneak in there and be the fourth. So SEC is going to get 5.
I got to see. No, I got to look at the ACC too. Yeah, maybe. Well, here's the thing with USC. Next week at Notre Dame.
Yep.
We're going to see who they are. And if USC wins, the blessing of that is you've officially knocked Notre Dame out of the playoff talk. Because 3 losses, Notre Dame is not getting in the playoff. Even though the 3 losses would be against crazy good teams. But USC also has to travel to Eugene. Yeah. So we're going to find out who USC is. If USC theoretically wins out, they're a playoff team. Absolutely. Yeah. But they have to win out. I don't know. Because they're 5-1 right now with that 1 loss at Illinois, which will be a ranked team that beat you. I would say USC has to go 5-1 down the stretch. And they could probably squeak into the playoffs.
Yeah, as a 2-loss team. There's going to be a lot of 2-loss teams in this year, I think.
As there should be. And in fact, I'm actually not opposed to a really, really good 3-loss team getting in the playoff. I do not want what we saw last year with like a Clemson or something like that. And that's going to be the challenge, right? Is what happens with these Big 12 or ACC. So let's say Miami and Texas Tech go undefeated, which I think are the cream of the crop in those. But then what if BYU beats Texas Tech in the championship game? And what if, let's just say Clemson or Virginia or somebody in the ACC wins the big ACC championship game? Now you've soaked up extra spots for those teams that shouldn't be.
Let me think of how many. What I'm trying to think. SEC had 3 last year. And the Big Ten had 4, if I remember correctly. Texas, Tennessee, Alabama didn't get in.
Georgia did.
And Georgia did, and that was it.
Yeah, but you also had 2 ACC teams, remember? SMU and Clemson, because Clemson beat SMU in the championship game. You had Arizona State out of the Big 12. You had Boise. You had Notre Dame. So, see, this is where you had 2 ACC teams. You had Notre Dame. You start clearing that wreckage out, and it could be very likely that you see 4. And again, I think USC is that dark horse to be that 4th team in the Big Ten, and then you're dealing with the clown car of crazy in the SEC, where you have 9 ranked teams, soon to be 10, with Texas coming into play. So I think you
got to throw out Missouri. I don't even know if they should be ranked now. The only team that they played, they lost to. Like, I'm not going to rank them.
They will be. I'm not telling you what should happen.
They'll be like 21st.
Because Vanderbilt, they play Vanderbilt next week, and I think Vanderbilt had a bye this week. So now it's another ranked team. So Missouri's going to beat a not ranked team, or not should be ranked team that is a ranked team. So they're going to stay in the top 25, and then they got A&M. And then someone's going to say, okay, well, their 2 losses were Alabama and A&M, so we're going to keep them ranked, and the SEC carousel keeps rolling.
And so Missouri is going to be in the playoffs?
No. They'll just be a ranked team. But the problem is, this has always been the argument with this SEC slamming 10 teams in the rankings, is they all beat each other, but it's, you beat a ranked team. Oh, you lost to a ranked team, so you're still really good. And this is where the fallacy with the Big Ten is, teams like Nebraska, Washington should be ranked, but they're not. So Ohio State's win against Washington, it's like, oh, you beat Washington. In the SEC, that would have been a 19th ranked team that you beat on the road. For Ohio State, it's an unranked team on the road.
These are all good points. Monken is the offensive coordinator for the Ravens now. Those 2 national titles that Georgia had, he was the coordinator at Georgia.
Yep.
Doug Shepard, yes, I am with you 100%. I think we think exactly alike. Music to my ears that Notre Dame is out of the playoffs.
No, but I want to go back to Mr. Bucknut's point, because this was a point you and I talked about in February.
What one?
About Monken going to the Ravens. Because that was, and call it losing Stetson Bennett, right? Great college quarterback. Losing coordinators. Our concern with the loss of Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. Was this is what happens to great teams, and it's hard to reload, especially in college, because you need that recruiting angle at the coordinator position. And look at what we've seen with Brian Hartline and Matt Patricia coming in. You haven't missed a beat. In fact, you may be better. And I think Hartline's great because he's a keeper for a while. Yep. Patricia, I think if we have him one more season after this, we should be very blessed. Yeah. But I think everyone's always been on the same page. Matt Patricia is not staying for 5-10 years. That's just not. He'll probably make the jump back to the NFL at some point, like Chip Kelly did. So I think what we want to see is that continued progression within the defensive side of the ball, and maybe you're developing one of your assistants, one of your, position group coaches to maybe develop into that defensive coordinator position. But I think if Ohio State can have that internal homegrown talent, you're in a good spot.
I got another theory. Larry Johnson retires after this year. Luke Fickell's the defensive line coach next year. And then he becomes the defensive coordinator after that.
That's the pathway. And that's where you look at something like Hartline and Fickell, where I think Hartline, I don't know what his career aspirations are, but maybe he says, listen, I do this well for 5 to 7 years. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can go to a MAC school and be a coach or something along those lines. Or maybe he continues to get paid extremely well as a coordinator. Mm-hmm. And I'm being serious. He buys his time for 15, 20 years.
Yep.
Stays with the program. But I think you look at somebody like Coach Fickell, who I think has just kind of gotten some raw deals. I think he could be a good coach, but maybe he realizes maybe I'm just a better coordinator.
Or maybe he realizes he likes it.
Yeah.
Maybe he just realizes, hey, this is what I like to do. I like to be in Columbus, Ohio. I like to be close to family. And it didn't work going to Wisconsin. So I'm going to come back home and coach for the Buckeyes and be happy.
And it wasn't a one and done, because I think if it's a one and done, there's always going to be that itch that says, well, maybe I just hit a bad spot. I can still do this. Coach Fickell was a coach at 2 places. And
he did awesome at Cincinnati, though. I mean, took them to the playoffs.
That's true. I forgot. He did play Alabama there. I don't know, but that's always going to be the problem of great teams. Is you lose your coordinators. That NFL, college, you're going to lose your coordinators. How do you develop? And I think the point about Monken is solid, because Monken was a great coordinator at Georgia. Obviously had elite talent in Georgia, but they still have elite talent down there. But if you watch Georgia this year, there's something missing. Mm-hmm. They're not where they used to be. I look at Georgia and Oregon in the same mold that I'm not scared of them like I would have been in the past.
And you know what? Like, it kind of breeds repetition when you have success at something, like recruiting, for example. When you get successful wide receivers that go to the NFL, more wide receivers want to come no matter what the situation is to Ohio State. Well, what happened with Nick Saban was he had successful NFL coaches that fallen on hard times come to Alabama and then move along. Well, now Day's taking a page out of that book, right? And successful coaches that are aspiring to get in the NFL come to Ohio State and they're moving on. This will be 2 in a row. That's something people are going to start looking at that and being like, this is a place where I can go to get to the next level again.
And that's great when you can recycle that. I want to say Sarkisian, right, was an OC with Saban. Mm-hmm. Maybe not Kiffin, I don't think. He had a pretty good list of revolving door coordinators on both sides of the ball. And that's where
Bill O'Brien.
Pardon?
Bill O'Brien, right?
Bill O'Brien, yeah. I couldn't pull that one. That's a great call too. But that's where, again, it's come here. I know you're elite. Come here, resurrect yourself, get your confidence back for 2 years, go off somewhere else, and just keep that carousel going. But you're coming into the culture, and that starts with Ryan Day. And again, this is where ultimately why we're nitpicking, why we're doing all this throughout the season is The pinnacle is multiple national championships, back-to-back national championships, something that has never been done at Ohio State. And if you look back at Nick Saban's Alabama career, 6 titles.
Yep.
That's what GOAT looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Ryan Day has to win 6 national titles, but I'm saying this one national championship every decade, not good enough at Ohio State. I want 2 to 3 every decade.
Yeah.
That's the standard that needs to be at Ohio State. And if you go beyond that, then yeah, you have elevated the program.
That's a perfect place to close out the show, man. You just said what we needed to say. God bless everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. We got to leave you with a OH, baby.
IO.
Peace out. God bless. And boom.